अखिल भारतीय देवांग देवांगन कोस्टी कोस्टा फेडरेशन की गूगल मीट संख्या 448 में आप सभी को नमस्कार करता हूं। मैं रांची से राजीव देवांगन आप सभी का स्वागत है। स्वागत है हमारे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष अरुण बरोड़े सर का। और आज का विषय है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स। पिछले हफ्ते भी हमने फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स पे हमें जानकारी मिली थी श्री मधु अप्पा जी सर से। आज भी एक बार फिर चीफ गेस्ट के रूप में मधु अप्पा जी हमारे साथ हैं इसी विषय पर इसका एक नेक्स्ट पार्ट लेकर के। मधु सर आपका हार्दिक स्वागत है। मधु सर हम सभी जानते हैं कि बहुत एक्सपीरियंस चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हैं जिन्हें काफ़ी बहुत लंबा अनुभव है फाइनेंशियल रिलेटेड एरिया में। तो आइए हम पिछले हफ्ते सर ने बताया था फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स पार्ट वन में कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स क्या है, इसके कौन कौन से एलिमेंट्स होते हैं, जैसे बैलेंस शीट, इनकम स्टेटमेंट, कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट और कुछ और भी चीज़ें जैसे कि ऑडिटर्स रिपोर्ट उसमें होता है। फिर इसके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या हैं, जैसे फाइनेंशियल पोजीशंस पता करना है, फाइनेंशियल रिजल्ट्स जानना है, कंपनी या बिजनेस को अपना नेक्स्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर में प्लान करना है। इन चीज़ों के बारे में सर ने काफ़ी डिटेल में अच्छी जानकारी दी थी। तो आइए आज हम एक बार फिर इस विषय को आगे और जानते हैं। मधु सर आपका हार्दिक स्वागत है और मैं आग्रह करता हूँ कि आइए और इस विषय पर हमें अपनी जानकारी प्रदान करें। मधु सर।
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. तो इस इस हफ्ते आई थिंक last week I had discussed about what is the purpose of financial statements and थोड़ा थोड़ा विषय assets के बारे में कुछ बोला था। आज ज़्यादा नहीं लेकिन liabilities के बारे में थोड़ा बातचीत करने को just I'll take that opportunity and later next sessions में मैं इनकम स्टेटमेंट मतलब इनकम क्या होता है, एक्सपेंसेस क्या होता है, वो सभी में जानकारी दे लूँगा। एंड एक्चुअली लोकेश सर से बात नहीं हुआ। एक्चुअली आज वो फ़ोन किया था, मुझे बात नहीं हो सका। लोकेश सर एक्चुअली लास्ट टाइम जो मीटिंग में सेशन में रिक्वेस्ट था लोगों का इनकम टैक्स के बारे में कुछ जानकारी देने के लिए, मतलब returns filing and all that, question and answer session. So lot of general doubts है, generic doubts है। तो अगर हो सकता है तो आप दोनों लोग मिला के एक सेशन ले सकते हैं जो जनरल doubts clearance for the people of our group.
पक्का, we'll do that.
General like salaries, income क्या होता है, then return कैसे भरता है, then filing क्या है, due dates क्या है, and what exactly is claimable as deductions, वो सभी general
ठीक है ना? We'll plan out. We'll have to make multiple sessions, है ना?
हाँ, yes sir, yes sir.
ठीक है ना? तो one for salary, one for different, तो वैसे कर लेंगे।
Correct.
I'm just saying like we'll plan first week of June बोल के सर को बोल रहा था मैं अनुज साहब को।
हाँ हाँ।
है ना? That will be ideal time.
Right sir.
Okay.
Okay. Just अभी स्क्रीन दिख रहा है ना सर सभी को?
यस सर, क्लियर है, क्लियर।
यस सर।
ओके, तो सभी को नमस्कार। सो सेशन नंबर 2 फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के बारे में कुछ जानकारी करने के लिए इरादा है, तो मैं कुछ कोशिश करता हूँ। फर्स्ट इज इंट्रोडक्शन। यस, ऋग्वेदा का जो वाक्य है, आनो भद्रः कृतवो यन्तु विश्वतः, let noble thoughts come to us from all directions. So ये मेरा actually motto है that we should always allow the noble thoughts to come from all directions. In fact आज एक वीडियो सुन रहा था, there is one group called भारतीय विचार मंच। Okay, वो भारतीय विचार मंच का मोटो भी वही है, आनो भद्रः कृतवो यन्तु विश्वतः। Then I thought, okay, lot of people have this idea of getting noble thoughts from all directions. मतलब we should be open for learning. ये मेरा आशय है। Okay, now just a few statistics I want to just show. So if you look at it, this is the credit growth, what has happened is credit growth has moved to double digit in almost in January, May. Actually, COVID के बाद the credit growth was in the single digit. Now, for the first time, growth has gone to double digit. So it's about 10.1% now, which means basically economic activity has improved quite a lot compared to COVID days. Now we are almost going to be in pre-COVID terms, 10.3% growth year on year. So, I mean, this is something good news for all of us that the economic activity is picking up and the economic growth is also anticipated. Okay, now just we discussed a lot of things last week also. How does a financial statement help in measuring performance? ये स्लाइड दिख रहा है ना सर सभी को?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Measuring performance. How does financial statement help? So financial statement is a basically a report card. We can call it as a report card of the performance of the business. So in education, we have the exam and we get a report card after the exam. Similarly, this financial statements are nothing but report cards of the performance of the business. So this can be used in any of the business, whether it is a trading business, sole proprietor, or company, a partnership, or any kind of business they can use. Even for individuals, you can use your own financial report, validation of your status, basically. What is your asset status? What is your liability? What is your income? What was your expense? What was your saving? So that gives you a report of how you performed in the past financial year. That is one thing. Second thing, also it helps in allowing people to forecast for future. तो इस साल मेरा परफॉर्मेंस था ओके आई गॉट let's say my income was about 15 lakh, my expenses was about 12 lakh, so I had a saving of only 3 lakh. So how do I improve? Either I can improve the sales, let's say income by 15 lakh to maybe 20 lakh, and yeah, reduce the expenses from 12 lakhs to maybe 10 lakhs, and thereby increasing my net income. So this also will help to take action for future planning. So in businesses, like lot of corporates, they use the financial reports extensively for reviewing their business performance, and also lot of forecast, lot of planning, lot of analysis is done based on the financial reports. What is working capital? Working capital is basically the fund required to run the business, to run the day-to-day operations of the business. So, for example, when we start a business, like example I can give is a textile business. Let's say I'm a manufacturer of silk material. So I have to invest. First is investment is I have to buy machinery, plant and machinery. So that is a capital asset. I have to pay upfront and then buy the machinery, or I can get a loan and then buy the machinery. Then maybe if I don't have a space, I go for a rental space. Rental space, what I do, I have to pay deposit to the landlord. So that is basically used for setting up the business. So plant, buying, procuring plant, procuring or paying the rental deposit and any other deposits is basically to set up the business. Okay. Whereas working capital is the capital, the funds required to run the business. So your plan is okay, I have already bought the machinery now, I have space, I have power, I have manpower, everything. Now I need to buy raw material. Raw material is silk material I have to buy. So I have to spend money and I buy the silk material. I convert that into a sari or a material and I sell that in the market. When I sell that in the market, either I get cash or I may have to pay by sell it in credit, means 30-day credit or 60-day credit. So when I buy the raw material, I have to pay in advance. Say, let's say silk I bought the silk by paying advance, or if I am a known person in the market, I may get credit by the supplier. Supplier may give credit of 15-day, 30-day, yeah, 2 months time. So depends on the what is my credit worthiness. So the funds required to run this business is the working capital. Then how much loans should I take for the business? So loans basically like I need, as I said, plant and machinery I want to buy. I can either take a loan or invest through my own funds. Or even the working capital, I can either take a loan like an overdraft facility from the bank, or these days we'll get working capital loan. I can take that and then run the business. But there are parameters. How much loan can I take? Should I take everything under loan, or should I invest my own funds? So there are some parameters which we need to be aware of, because if you taking loan is easy, but repayment, how do you repay the loan? What is my interest burden? I have to pay interest also. That is also there. So a lot of things have to be factored when taking the loan for the business. Then some businesses have to pay income tax. I mean, not some, all businesses have to pay income tax, but there are some businesses which are exempt from income tax. There is a tax holiday period. Like for example, the software and hardware industry, there are a lot of benefits given under SEZ scheme, Special Economic Zone. So this Special Economic Zone, there are a lot of benefits, like you don't have to pay income tax for during the holiday period, tax holiday period. So such benefits the businesses can avail. Then, so financial statements, whether it is prepared yearly or monthly, yeah, it depends. Whether if it is if you thoroughly want to review your business performance regularly, then it is better to prepare it on a monthly basis. Maybe a short snapshot on a monthly basis. Whereas on an annual basis, it has to be prepared based on the requirements of law and requirements of the auditors. So, however, depending on the business, depending upon the requirements, you can prepare the financial statements either monthly or a quarterly or a half yearly or a yearly. So, meaning of financial year is financial year in India is April 1st of April to 31st of March. This is the British system which we are following since independence. Hopefully, this will. This is the term which we are using for Indian tax purpose and Indian financial year purpose. Then what is the meaning of equity? Equity is basically the funds invested by the owner of the business. So you can start the business either by your own fund, your own capital, or by borrowing funds, right? Or by borrowing funds from bank, which is nothing but loans. So whatever funds you bring in from your own account, that is the equity. Yeah. What is the role of an auditor? Auditor, he audits the financial statements. Basically, he is kind of a evaluator or evaluator of the financial performance. So when I prepare the financial report, the performance report, he will evaluate whether this report prepared by the company is as per the law. One second thing, it is fair and true. Third thing, it meets all the parameters of standards set by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India or any other regulatory authority, and he can just evaluate and then certify, saying that yeah, according to the review, limited review, or according to the review what I have done, these statements are true and fair. So that is the role of an auditor, and he also pinpoints what are the issues, what are the rectifications you have to take as a business manager or a business leader. Some of the points like whether your treatment of income is right or wrong, whether your treatment of expense is right or wrong, all that he will also suggest. Then what is the difference between book profit and cash profit? Yes, book profit is basically the profit earned through the financial statements, whatever reported. Cash profit is something which is you look at the performance of the business and how much cash we have earned. Okay, like for example, as I said, when running the business, you need working capital. So the working capital, what happens is you get a lot of benefit. Some businesses run with zero working capital. Some businesses run with lot of working capital. So a lot of working capital required, wherein you make advance payment to the supplier. I mean to buy material, whereas you have to extend credit of 90 days or 120 days to your customer. So in this case, you need a lot of working capital. Okay. Whereas in some cases, what happens is you get credit from your supplier. Let's say you are buying material, but you get credit. Let's say 30 day or 45 day or 60 day, and then your conversion of that material into end product is, let's say, only 15 days. Okay, and you sell the product, but you sell the product on cash basis. Means what is happening is your investment on working capital is negligible or zero, because you don't need money to buy raw material, and you bought all the material, and within 15 days you converted into, let's say, material, and once you converted that material, you sold the material and you got cash. So what happens is, when you get cash, from that cash you retain your profit, and then you make the payment to the supplier and to the laborer for their workman. So you don't invest anything. But in a reverse case, what happens is, let's say you have to pay in advance to buy material, and then you get the material, and after that conversion, let's say 15 day, you have 15 day or 1 month, you convert into finished product, and you sell the product in the market, but that person pays after 90 days. Then second month again you pay in advance, then again you sell the material, so again 90 days. Third month again you pay in advance, and you sell the material again 90 days. After that only you get money. So first month whatever you sold, you'll get the funds in third month. So effectively 3 months funds are required as working capital. Okay. So this is the element which I want to talk, like cash profit. What exactly is the earnings in cash terms? Okay. This is another statistics with respect to steel production in India. India, actually, this is again just to inform you that the business in India has picked up a lot. So one metric here is, compared to last year, our steel production has increased by 18%. Last year, same period, March 31, 2021, we had produced about 102 metric ton. Now it is about 120 metric ton. So which means the business has grown by 18%. So if the steel production has gone up, means all the related industries also would have performed well in the business. This is the GDP growth rate estimates by IMF for 2022. If you look at India is expected to grow by 8.2%, whereas Russia is negative 8.5% because of the war. And we are better off compared to China. China is only about 4.4%. So this is a good news that our forecast is on the very high trajectory. Yeah, this is another statistics. There is a scheme called PLI scheme. PLI scheme was introduced by central government. This is nothing but actually production linked incentive scheme. Okay, certain industries, this is step taken in order to boost the economy after COVID. Like a lot of industries were in downturn, businesses not performing, job losses and all that. So in order to boost the production, they introduced the scheme of production linked incentive, which is called PLI scheme, wherein if you have if they've set some targets, if you meet the target, then they will give incentive to the business. So what has happened is almost they have identified 14 industries, and about $30 billion is expected outlay, and incentive proposed currently is about 11 billion rupees in terms of rupees. And for certain industries, PLI scheme is still not approved. For example, textile. When we speak, our particular community-related one is textile. Still, there is some approvals pending. But these are all large-scale benefits offered to the large industrialists in order to generate employment and also increase the production. Okay. So, just another note here. The purpose of financial reporting is to obtain cheap capital. Means, see, it is a sarcastic statement. Matlab, you know very well, I can give you example is Kingfisher, our Vijay Mallya. What he had done, he had borrowed a lot of funds from the market, from the banks, by his financial reports only. I mean, in the financial reports, there was a valuation on Kingfisher brand. So he had valued Kingfisher brand as a huge value, and based on that huge value, banks also lent money. And later, when the industry, when the business started collapsing, the brand value also collapsed, and there was no option to recover the money because uh, banks had done a big mistake by considering the brand value as a asset for a loan purpose. Okay, this is something which they have realized, and now, of course, certain steps are being taken. But I mean, you can't recover money from Kingfisher now, so it's a complete loss of business for the banks. Okay, I just retained this slide. The contents of balance sheet, I mean, contents of financial statements are nothing but balance sheet, income statement, cash flow, notes, and we also have to keep in mind that we have to follow some standards and guidelines and statutes, and all these things will culminate in the auditor's report. Yeah, I'm just retaining this also. What are the objectives of financial statements? True and fair view of the results of the business. See, one very important thing to note here is the auditor, when he evaluates and reports or he certifies the financial statements, he will say it is true and fair and not true and correct. The the function of an auditor is to evaluate, see, the performance of the business in financial terms, and just do a materiality check. One thing. Second thing, some of the key objectives you should ensure that uh, the company has followed. For example, like I said in my previous slide here, whether the standards applicable for that business, whether they have incorporated that standards while preparing the financial statements. Yes, if they have prepared, yes, then it's okay. Whether they have followed all the guidelines in preparing the financial statements. Yes, if it is yes, then yes, okay. Then whether they have complied with the statutes. It can be various statutes depending on the industry. Like for example, in the banking industry, they have to follow the norms of Banking Regulation Act, the RBI Act, and all that. Whereas if it is an insurance company, they have to mandatorily meet the IRDA requirements as per the statutes. If it is a telecom company, then telecom regulatory authorities requirement they have to meet. Like that, there are a lot of independent statutes which the financial reports have to comply with. So when the auditor reviews the financial statements, his main intention is also to ensure that statutes are covered, and he certifies that yes, it's true and fair. And as I said, business performance review can be done by using a financial statement. There are two views. One is, see, auditors is always an external party. Okay, external party, he cannot get involved 100% on the performance of the business. He will not be able to spend time, devote time at all. Whereas an internal person like the CFO or business leader, he has to review the business performance based on the financial reports on a regular basis, assess it whether the business is doing well, whether we are incurring losses or whether we are gaining some profits, whether sales is increasing, whether expenses are coming down. All that analysis he has to do using the financial reports. So internal review is very crucial. External review is crucial from the point of view of statutory requirements and also from the point of view of banks, from the point of view of income tax, all these external requirements. Then stakeholders, yes, financial reports are very essential for the investors, banks, lenders, suppliers, customers. And as I said earlier, business growth support financial reports will be very helpful, and it helps in forecasting, allowing investment decisions whether to buy machinery this year or whether to postpone it to next year, like that. So it also helps to do a comparison with your own business competitor, and industry analysis also. This will be very helpful. Yeah, balance sheet, as I said earlier, it is basically a financial position of the company at any given point of time. It helps to assess companies' health of the business, health of the financial health, means not business health, financial health. Helps in comparing your business with your competitors, your friends, means your industry friends. It also helps to check the net worth of the business, and it supports what you own in the business and what you own in the business. That is basically liabilities and assets. Yeah, some of the assets and liabilities. This I just showed last week also. This is the balance sheet. Assets equals liabilities plus shareholders' equity. Now I'm just moving to liability. Last week we discussed the assets. Now I'm just moving to liability. So liability is something that is owed to somebody else, which means whatever the business has to pay to somebody else is a liability. Means the business, if it has borrowed money or if it has got material but has to pay after a credit period, or it has to pay taxes, it has to pay employee liability like provident fund, ESI. All these are something which the business owes to a third party. So a liability is something what the business owes to others. It's a legal or a regulatory risk or an obligation. So liability is kind of a requirement legally. For example, when I talk about employees, income tax, provident fund is a legal requirement, and regulatory is, let's say, for instance, you have to pay license fee. Telecom companies have to pay license fee. So that is actually a regulatory thing, an obligation. Let's say you have employed people in your company, so you have to pay salaries. That is the obligation, and you have to pay suppliers when you borrow money from the suppliers. I mean, borrow on you purchased in credit terms. So those are the obligations which you have to fulfill. So that is a liability. Okay, in accounting, basically companies book liabilities in opposition to assets. I mean, so if assets is booked on one side, liability is also booked on the opposite side. So liabilities are settled over time through the transfer of economic benefits. So this example is like, for example, the textile business. Uh, like I said, I purchase the raw material by on credit term. Let's say I purchase the raw material with 30-day credit period. Okay, and from that raw material I've got some economic benefit. Means I have manufactured sari and I have sold that sari. So I have got some economic benefit, and that benefit is I have to settle whatever that economic benefit I have got, and that is a liability which I owe. And vital aspect of a company means so when I borrow funds, I have to use it for the operations, running the regular operations, or expansions means invest in plant and machinery, buy buying material, or let's say if you are running in a vehicle business, you have to buy vehicles for running your taxis, like that. Whatever business you are in, whatever expansion you need to make, you need funds. Funds is nothing but borrowing or investing own money. That is the liability. Liability also helps in reducing your expenses, and it is also legally owned or enforceable. Means once a liability is confirmed, then you have no option but you have to pay it. So it is also enforceable legally by banks, for example, if you have borrowed money, and also if you have, let's say, got supplier's credit, that is also legally enforceable. Then broad type of liabilities are loans and credits. Uh, whatever loans, there are a variety of loans like fixed term loan, like repayment, let's say over a period of 10 years or 5 years or 15 years. So fixed term loan. Then you have working capital loan, repayable over 90 days or 30 days, depending on the arrangement you have with the bank. Or you have overdraft facility where you borrow based on your requirement, and whatever excess cash you have, you deposit that money back to that account and you reduce your interest burden. So those are various things, and the credits are basically like you let's say get credit from suppliers or even the employees. So you pay employee salary only once in a month, but the services they have already provided from day 1 to day 30. So that is also a kind of a great employee is given to the company. Then current liabilities. So current liabilities is basically liabilities which are due immediately within less than 1 year. We can call it. Like for example, the supplier's credit is a current liability. Whatever employment related payable like provident fund or TDS deducted, then any other license fee or any amount payable, they're all current liabilities. Then the other thing is equity. Equity, as I said, is nothing but the funds invested by the owner of the business in the business, into the business. So when I want to start a business, I have two options. One is if I have my own capital, if I have my own funds, I will invest that funds in the business. Or if I don't have funds, I will have to borrow funds from others, and I borrow and then invest. So borrowing becomes loan, own investment becomes equity, because business is treated as a separate independent entity than the owner. So owner is giving money to the business to run the business. So business always owes money to the owner, which is nothing but that's why this equity is treated as a liability of the business, whereas in owner's books it is the asset. Means from business I have to get this much money, whereas business has to pay this much money to the owner. So that's why it is a liability in business books. So just want to let know one more point. Liabilities are just assets in hiding. Means this is basically from the point of view of risk taking and improving the business. So there are a lot of companies. What they do is we call it as debt equity ratio or a leverage ratio. Let's say they invest only about 1 lakh rupee, whereas they borrow 3 lakh rupee, and total capital becomes 4 lakhs. And what happens is your borrowing is 3 lakh, whereas your own investment is only 1 lakh. So this from this 4 lakh, if they are able to earn, let's say, 10 lakh rupee revenue or 15 lakh rupee revenue, then that means they have been able to utilize the funds effectively, and their business is capable of leveraging the debts. Means the more debt they can take and increase the business. So liability, you should not think that, borrowing money is a risk. Borrowing money you should never do. I should always reduce my liabilities. No, this is the statement like liabilities are just assets in hiding. For example, I can give you one classic example is the Reliance industry of Ambani Group. They have huge borrowings, okay, but they have been able to use the funds borrowed and effectively run the business and earn profits, expand the business. Every year they keep expanding into newer territory, and they've been able to do it at lower cost by borrowing funds at a lower cost. So this is one classic example that they have aggressively taken loans to run their business and increase their business. So actually today it's a very short presentation. Just want to end here. Uh, Next week I want to take furthermore this thing. I hope I have been able to give some information for today. Please let any questions. Please let me know.
मधु सर, एक्सेलेंट प्रेजेंटेशन। किसी के कुछ पर्सनल या कुछ सवाल हो या कुछ जानना चाहे तो प्लीज पूछिए।
So just two things I'll add up in the presentation, Madhuji.
Yes, sir. Lokesh ji, please give your input. Sorry, I didn't ask you. Please
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Group also, it will be helpful.
So basically like क्या है ये स्टार्टअप इंडिया प्लान के अंदर जो है ना DPIIT जो है डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ प्रमोशन ऑफ इंटरनल ट्रेड एंड इंडस्ट्रीज कुछ है ना ऐसा कुछ। तो उसके अंतर्गत क्या है कि कुछ जो नई कंपनीज आ रहे हैं अभी स्टार्टअप इंडिया के प्लान के अंदर, उनको गवर्नमेंट एक फायदा दे रहा है कि अगले 7 साल तक जो प्रॉफिट आएगा ना उसमें से कोई 3 साल लगातार उनको टैक्स पे करने की जरूरत नहीं है उसके ऊपर। तो इस तरह का एक जो है मतलब शायद मधु जी मिस कर दिए हैं, वो एक है जिसमें टैक्स पे करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती उनको, है ना। और उसके अलावा जैसे कैश प्रॉफिट और बुक प्रॉफिट की जो बात हुई थी ना, कैश प्रॉफिट में क्या होता है, जैसे हम लोग नई नई कंपनी होती है तो वो इन्वेस्ट करते हैं फिक्स्ड एसेट में, प्लांट एंड मशीनरी में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, तो उसमें पूरा पैसा चले जाता है, लेकिन खर्चा पूरा बुक नहीं करते पूरे साल भर में। तो वो जो है अगले 10 साल 15 साल में बुक होता है खर्चा। तो वो जो खर्चा होता है एक्चुअली एज ए डेप्रिसिएशन बोलते हैं उसको हम लोग। हाँ, तो वो कैश एक्सपेंसेस नहीं होता है। तो वो एक छोटा सा पॉइंट है जो मतलब अपने कैश प्रॉफिट में ऐड होता है।
नॉन कैश एक्सपेंस एंड कैश एक्सपेंस।
यस। तो इस तरह के 2-3 चीजें छोटी-छोटी जो मतलब शायद मिस हो गया है, मैं जस्ट ऐड कर रहा हूँ।
यस सर, यस सर।
इसके अलावा कोई प्रश्न है तो या देयर।
मधु सर, हेलो।
यस सर।
आपने अपने प्रेजेंटेशन में एक वर्ड यूज़ किया था बीच में, SEZ, स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन। तो ये तो हम बहुत सुनते हैं कई बार, अगर इसके मतलब टेक्निकल मीनिंग क्या है? कोई अगर इंडस्ट्री, कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन SEZ जोन में आता है तो उसको हम कैसे समझेंगे? क्या उसको क्या बेनिफिट है या उसको टेक्निकली क्या उसको हम मीन करेंगे?
Yes, sir. So initially, let's say about 30 years back, government started to promote technology, software in a big way. So what they started was this SEZ scheme is there since many earlier days also, but the prominence got in the news limelight after liberalization. Let's say 91 में जो नरसिम्हा राव का गवर्नमेंट आया, then they liberalized a lot of these things like reduction in a lot of license raj को खत्म करके थोड़ा they opened up the market and all that ना. So during that time, these things like for especially for software, because they realize that India services may potential is very good. We have good amount of educated technocrats, like technical skills are there, and there is a lot of demand outside of India for the services, basically technical services. So they start in order to and also employment generation. So what they did was they started this called software technology parks. Okay, so this software technology parks, what happens is you have to apply to the government saying that I want to set up a unit in the software technology park. Okay, and you have to. There are a lot of parameters. Like okay, how much foreign currency you will be earning. You have to give your forecast, and what kind of exports revenues you will have, and what kind of imports. Net foreign currency should be positive. That was the main objective. Means if my export is $100 and my import is $80, which means $20 is net foreign currency positive. So the main condition was you have to be positive. Net foreign currency inflow should be positive. First thing. Second thing, it has to be set up in such a way that the assets, whatever you purchase, you will not be able to sell that asset. That is called as something like bonded warehouse kind of a thing, where you will get duty benefits. You don't have to pay customs duty for imports, and if it is a local purchase, you need not pay excise and all that. So, but because you are getting that goods without paying any tax, it was called as a bonded warehouse, which means the government had the authority over those assets. Though you purchased it without paying duty and all that, and you are using it, but government had the authority saying that yes, I'm bonding this warehouse. I mean, basically, I am kind of putting a tala. It's like just a virtual tala. You can call it as a virtual tala, where you have to use these assets only in this area. Like let's say you have set up the park in Bangalore. Let's say Bangalore, there is a dedicated place called Electronic City. Okay. So in this Electronic City, you have set up the space using let's say 100 by 100 square feet by a building. So that is the bonded warehouse. So you have to use the asset in that area only. You cannot take it out to run your business. So that was other criteria. Of course, laptops and all you were able to take, but there were some permissions and all that. Okay. So the main objective was to help the technocrats, businessmen to set up these things, technology parks, earn foreign currency for the government, and they give 10-year tax holiday. Means you don't have to pay any income tax on the profits you earn. Okay. And also there was a duty benefit, customs duty or excise duty benefit. So once the software technology park, this provisions under the Income Tax Act was allowed for certain years. After that, they came up with this special economic zone. Means they created special economic zones. Like for example, in Mumbai, you have this SEEPZ, SEEPZ, that is called as a special economic zone. In Bangalore, we have there are some technology parks, which is a special economic zone. I think in Hyderabad, this finance high tech city, I think that is a special economic zone. I'm not very sure. Lokesh ji can add value here. So the same condition only is followed up here with a little more additions and little more deletions. Again, the whole objective is employment generation. Second, foreign currency benefit for the country, nation. The third is, of course, for the businessmen, they will be having a tax holiday, no need to pay income tax, and the whatever profits they generate, they can go on reinvesting that in the business. So that way, more businessmen showed interest in the technology parks. So that's how like a lot of people very well this Satyam of Satyam Ramlinga Raju. He was nowhere connected into technology. They also came into business. L&T was nowhere connected into business. They also came into business. Lot of companies set up their own technology companies. So that way they took the benefit also. and they basically that the whole objective was this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the detailed explanation for SEZ. और कोई सवाल कोई पूछना चाहेंगे या कुछ एडिशन करना चाहेंगे आज के सब्जेक्ट में? एनीवन?
Is there any SEZ only with respect to our textile oriented thing?
Yeah, textiles also there are some economic zones, textile parks, but there, of course, see, irrespective of any industry, foreign currency earnings, you have some benefits. Okay, you have tax exemptions, not to the extent of complete SEZ, but there are some benefits. But the textile parks, what has happened is the government has given the benefit. Here, anyone setting up the unit there, they will get 24-hour supply of power, uninterrupted power supply, then single window clearance for the business, then also land lease land at a lower rate of rental. So those benefits are there for textile parks. Similarly, there are a lot of other things like diamond. For example, in Gujarat, there are this diamond industry. So there is a separate park for this diamond processing industry. Similarly, automobile के लिए there are certain benefits. There are dedicated locations where you can set up automobile park. Like for example, Chennai, there is a particular location where you can set up your automobile ancillary unit and get the get certain benefits, not necessarily tax, but other benefits like uninterrupted power supply, security, then roads, clean roads closer to the national highways, and also lease at a lower rate of rent, all that.
Can I throw a light on PLI by taking one example of textile PLI?
Yeah, actually, for textile, they've still not framed complete guideline. Textile and pharmaceutical, that is still going on. But in general, PLI scheme, what has happened is, see, COVID, what happened was, as we all know, lot of industries actually reduced their production. Okay, for example, semiconductor or automobile industry. I'll tell you, for example, this thing, automobile, then medical devices or a telecom or a food product industry. What happened was they reduced their production, which means basically loss of employment. Then one is loss of employment. Second is loss of tax revenues for government. All that. Then third thing is new industry setup also came down. Means if somebody wanted to invest in India, there also they were looking at multiple options. Like China was a major beneficiary. Now this COVID time, what happened was lot of things against China came up. You know, like okay, a lot of companies wanted to establish outside China. So this moment the government seized and then they said, yeah, you please set up unit here, and if you produce this many units, we will give you incentive. Okay. So to attract investment also this was used, and the second thing to augment the existing businesses. So this scheme was mainly rolled out for setting up new units and augmenting the existing businesses. So benefit is employment generation. Second is tax revenue increase. Third thing is dependency. Atmanirbhar project also. It will also comply with Atmanirbhar project that our dependency on external country is reduced. So that also is another thing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, राजीव जी,
जी सर.
चलिए करिए समापन.
ओके.
बहुत अच्छा सेशन है।
जी।
ये थर्ड पार्ट कंटिन्यू होएगा ना मधु जी? यस सर, नेक्स्ट वीक कंटिन्यू करूंगा सर। ओके ओके, थैंक यू।
तो हमने देखा आज फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का सेकंड पार्ट, फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को और हमें डिटेल में जाना। बहुत ही इन्फॉर्मेटिव सेशन रहा है पिछले बार की तरह। ऐसी बहुत सी बातें जो हम लोग सुनते हैं लेकिन जानते नहीं, अवेयरनेस नहीं होती है, जो कि फाइनेंस से संबंधित है, जिसको जानना ज़रूरी होता है, वो हम जान रहे हैं, सीख रहे हैं। और भी जानकारी सर से मिलती रही, ऐसी उम्मीद है। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत आभार। मधु सर, आपका हार्दिक आभार कि आपने अपना इतना अच्छा प्रेजेंटेशन बनाया और अपनी जानकारी हमें प्रदान की। सभी को आज गूगल मीट में जुड़ने के लिए आभार। और इसी के साथ मैं आज की गूगल मीट के समापन की घोषणा करता हूँ। सभी का हार्दिक आभार और गुड नाइट, शुभ रात्रि।
थैंक यू नाइट, गुड नाइट, शुभ रात्रि। थैंक यू मधु अप्पा जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच। थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
Thank you all.
लोकेश जी, थैंक यू।
Yeah.